Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The next Wasteless World Talks are here with new term. Bill, Kevin, and myself, we will write on the back of language to the future. And today's term, fail. So let's see what we will discover. Kevin, you are on the top of my screen, so you will be the first one. If you close your eyes and you hear the term fail, what came first to your mind, please?
Wait and see, because failure depends upon perspective. Let me give you an example. The Germans in the 19th and early 20th century, still today, are the greatest chemists in the world. They understand chemistry. They make huge industries out of chemistry. The reason they're so good is because they were obsessed with alchemy for 200 years. They never did manage to turn base metal into gold, but they managed to turn other chemicals into huge amounts of gold. So I think all failure needs perspective before it can be judged.
That's an interesting answer. What about you, Bill?
It's a great word. I don't think that failure exists except in your own mind. That is, you may not get to your goal, your stated goals. So it's a very personal. If you accept the failure, then you have failed. But if you do not accept the failure, you will never fail. I take it very personally.
Is it because in the noon discussion there was a lot of interesting perspectives, and one of them was that fail is part of our life. In Czech we say failures are human, or to fail is human. We say to fail is human. That's one of the Czech proverbs. Do you think it's right?
I think we learn from failure. That's the great thing. And so, like Bill was saying, you don't treat it as a negative, treat it as a positive, as an opportunity, because something will come from
that. Yes, Bill?
No. Something is connected in my head. This is what you guys do, is you say something different from where my head is at the time, and now I'm trying to reconcile it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Generally, what is interesting is that we speak all the time. We try to find the opposite word. So and fail. And what is the opposite?
Maybe succeed.
Is there anything else?
The lack of benefit.
Because as we have discussed it in the noontime, there we came to the fact that fail is generally it's an energy, it's a low band energy, so it's in some way negative for us. But on the other hand, every one of us, we may fail. We failed in the past. Whatever it was. But then with the time, it can show up, as Kevin says, they try to find gold. They didn't find gold, but they found a lot of other chemicals which can be turned into gold for much longer time. And I think that learning from the failures is very important. And it's not just humans. I think even the animal, if he or she or it learn that something is poisonous, in the few generation, they will not eat it, because they learn from the failures. We may write it down, they did it different way. And I think it's part of our life. And it's very important part, but to be able to repeat the fail, we have to acknowledge the fail. And you remember our discussion on error. It's 2 years ago, maybe more. So these two are, I think, very close connected.
Can you succeed if you have not failed? Otherwise, then success, repeated success, becomes just something that you are entitled to. It's the world always gives you success, and where is where where's the good in that?
I think you can, the answer on your question, I think it's you can, but the question is, will you recognize that you succeeded? If there will be no fail, you will not recognize the success.
Right, right. And if you don't recognize the success, then what you have is a string of unrecognized. What is an unrecognized success? If you don't recognize it yourself, that you accomplished this or you succeeded in that, that must be very either boring or disheartening if you don't recognize the successes.
On the other hand, there are people who tell you you are successful. You don't feel like that. There are people around presidents and around all the rich guys who say, you are great, you are the best one, you succeeded because you have the money, you have whatever. I am meeting a lot of people who say, Mr. Ali, you succeed, you build, you did whatever. And I say, I don't feel like that. I don't feel any special. I don't want you to tell me that. I must feel it inside. You know about my running divorce, and I don't see the divorce as a fail. When it was broken for 10 or 13 years, out of 26, it's 50%. Maybe it was my fault that I didn't file for divorce 13 years earlier. But I don't see it as a failure. I see it as a result, and we all agreed on the fact that coincidence does not exist. This is consequence. So I think that the success is consequence of possible failures.
I think success is, or failure is a state of mind. If you look at lions when they hunt, I think their success rate is 1 kill in 10 or 12 attempts. But it doesn't mean in their minds that they failed 11 times, because they only needed to kill once. And on average, once every 12 means there's going to be a lot of times where you don't succeed, but it doesn't mean you fail. I think the only failure would be death. So I think failure is a human value.
And we are pushed in the education system, and not only there, that fail is something negative.
But you don't learn from success.
Exactly. No. So we are putting it the very, very wrong way. I am playing with one of my friend, young friend, chess. He is 15. And we play remotely. And he never played chess before, so I teach him and we play time to time. And our game of chess looks like a battlefield, His aim is to get all my what is called the figures away. And at the end, there is only my king. And he succeeds. And he needs only 4 times to be beaten, then he starts to beat me. And it's all the time, except of one exception. There was one exception, but all the time the same. I have only the king at the end. And he has several, and play with me like the lion is playing with some of the prey. When not hungry, of course. But I am learning every single time from every single of our discussion. Somebody can say, You didn't came to conclusion after 40 minutes. He or she is right, but it's not a fail. It's great result. And we meet because we would like to discuss more. But I don't feel it as a fail. But somebody can say that.
Yeah, it is a state of mind. I remember at school in England, the school had a famous orchestra, and so we all had to try out to get into the orchestra. And I had no musical ability at all, and they had 4 levels failure. So we started off with the recorder, which I failed in, according to them, and went down to the glockenspiel, which I failed in. Then I went on to the triangle. And believe it or not, you can fail at the triangle. And so the last level is a roadie.
Is a what?
Is a roadie. So we had to carry stuff to and from the performance. And for us, it was a huge success. There was no failure at all because we had much more fun than anybody else.
Do you remember a moment when everybody around you think that you failed, but then you realize that you succeeded?
Well, just to take your example of the divorce, I went through a very difficult divorce. Um, and people will often use the word fail. It's a failed marriage. Like, really? And I just I never really warmed up to that thought that it was a failed marriage. Um, and, or if you get fired, you failed at the job. Um, so I'm not sure that the word fail has any meaning, well, maybe not any common meaning that everybody accepts. Because if I fail, don't I have to fall on my sword? That means that my life is worth nothing if I have failed at life or failed at the job or failed. I just don't accept that. There's always tomorrow.
You know, in the noon discussion, there was the industry 5.0 ambassador in Tanzania. He's a young guy. And he said, I think it was college or university. I don't know. I think it was college. And he said, I finished with great grades and I tried to get a job. And at the job, they told me that the school is not accredited. So he was there, he succeeded, and somebody told him, sorry, you have no school. And he said, okay, I did not stop. I did more and more and more. And he described his journey, which was fascinating. And he said, this failure, which the others see as a failure, bring me to what I am today. And that's exactly the point. But Kevin, you would like to say something, I think.
I was thinking along the same lines that instead of the word failure, we need another word because we need a word which means unforeseen or unexpected outcome, unplanned outcome, rather than failure. Because failure it's very negative and it puts a stop to everything. Whereas an unforeseen outcome is a different opportunity, it's new opportunities. It's a different path. It's more like crisis, where it's just a new opportunity.
You know, what you just said is very interesting because you just described nature. Nature does not fail. Of course, if the blossom will not grow there, it will grow next door or somewhere else. If I will not eat the apple, someone else will, but it's not a failure. It's a process. And I like the idea because what you just described, it reminds me on the work which I'm doing. You know, in factory, I see it with different eyes. I don't see a NG product which was broken or no. I see a lamp instead of a car light. And it's just another opportunity. That's very interesting. And I think it's yes. Yes, my answer is yes, we should find and implement another term, like the last page by Bill. It was a great definition. And I was just reminded by someone on the last page, and they has been very happy to have it. So McLean's rule, great Bill. Really great work. So maybe this term, and I'm not sure if the terms which you mentioned are not too complicated. Maybe it should be completely new term discovered by you, Kevin, or introduced by you. Sorry, introduced by you. Completely new term.
You know, that word unforeseen outcome does a different thing to my brain than the word fail does. The word fail is, oh, I'm worthless. I have to go to the back of the class. I have to, there's a whole bunch of different descriptors for fail, but it's not just negative, it's supremely negative. Um, but unforeseen outcome makes you want to say, oh, let me think, let me try to figure out why I thought it would be A, but it ends up being B, an unforeseen outcome. Where can I change my thinking process um, to get closer to the way it really turns out? And so it's a really it's a growth. It's really a growth term. So I'm not going to use failure anymore unless I want to shame the person. If I want to put him in his place, if I want to show that I am better than they are. So it's such a negative word. That's that's the that right there is maybe the biggest positive outcome to this discussion today on August 6th, because in in this politically divided world, um, a lot of people want to use the word fail. You failed. You're a failure. That effort failed. But the only reason they use that word is because they want to be superior to me or to the other person that they're talking to. It's a superiority, it's a power word. They want to be more powerful than whoever it is that they're talking. So I'm not going to use the word fail anymore, um, unless I want to shame a person, which I don't think I ever want to do that. And I'm going to say it was an unforeseen outcome. That's beautiful. Thank you.
And in education, in the English examination system, you get an A, B, or C, which were considered passes, a D and an E, which were meaningless, and then an F, meaning fail. And in the Danish system, you just have numbers from number 12 to number 1 or number 2. Nobody fails. There's no failures. There's just different levels of aptitude. I think, why have failures in education? It's so negative.
When I was in school, there has been grades 1 to 5. 1 was the best, 5 was the worst. The 5 was closer to me, at least in college, but in some education. But today they introduced it, I don't know, 10 years ago, percentage points. So you have 200 points, and then you are 189, but you need 190. It's so complicated for me. I never get it when my daughter was in school. Never get it completely. Why get so complicated? The system should be simple, understandable, and transparent. And I was losing with this complication of this 200 instead of 5. I lost the transparency completely. I did not understand why. Some schools try to give it just as a word, good, bad, or whatever. So again, 5 grades, and describe it. So I think that the unforeseen outcome, it's so great, because it reminds me on the ground mines, on creativity. because this is the result of creativity. Maybe not expected one, but it is creativity. And that's great.
And you learn,
Yes.
from it because you're trying to figure out why you thought it would be this way, but it ends up being this way. And it reminds me of a story that I think I've told you guys before. In a school, and there was one little girl who could not sit still. She was a mover. She could not sit still. She couldn't learn her math tables. She couldn't her whole body. And I have a grandson who's like that. He's very, very smart. He can't sit still. He has to be moving or throwing or something. So they were going to call this girl's parents up and tell them that she's failed. She's failing at school. Um, and an old teacher said, uh, ask the little girl to go wait in this room on the side, in which there was a one-way mirror. And they asked her to wait in there, and she did, and she couldn't sit still, and she started dancing. And the old teacher looked through the one-way mirror with the other teachers and said, "That's her genius." And so teachers, I think, need to use that word genius. I need to find Kevin's genius. I need to find Michael's genius. We need to help Michael find his genius because everybody has one. But the standard one-way education system does not help you find your genius. It helps you to learn how to be a follower. And, and so I think of that little girl dancing. So what is my genius? After all these years, have I found my genius? Maybe there's another one in there that I need to keep looking for.
I think that the reason why the education system is not looking for genius is because then the teachers has to learn every day. Not
Yeah.
only teach, but
They can't
learn.
just follow the same path.
Yeah.
And as I said, my granddad was all his life was teacher, my mom all her life. But they never stop in the system. Every single time they try to find out the genius in someone. And that was so beautiful. And it is still. It is still. And as you describe it, it's so great because we speak about a word which should not be used at all. We even propose another term to be used. And that's so great.
I think the interesting thing with AI is AI could really be used to recognize genius. Because, like, I'm saying that teachers, they have a fairly narrow band. So if you're a mathematics teacher, you're going down this narrow pathway. But AI maybe can recognize that, okay, this person's not very good at mathematics, but they're very good at spotting patterns or whatever it may be. It could offer huge potential to
Yes.
reduce the number of failures in society.
So instead of having a grade 1 to 5, uh, like we traditionally have used, we would have a broad spectrum. And we would see, oh, look, he lights up down here. It he is so taken by this area of thought. He's not taken by the mathematics or the chemistry or the whatever's at the other end of the spectrum. But that would help to say, I'm worthwhile. I can do something. I have a dream. I can, I can. And it helps to say, well, then I'm going to go study more of this down here at this end of the spectrum. So a
And
good way of grading for the schools.
and I think it should not stay at school. It should be kept during the entire life because it will change. When we are small, we don't know things which we know when we are 50 or 30 or 60, it doesn't matter. but it developed with us. I was a good dancer. I am not a good dancer anymore, but I was one. At the time, I was good. But today, I'm better on electric unicycle because it does not exist at the time when I was born. I think the issue, I like the idea with AI, but not with current AI. The current AI, it's so not transparent. We don't know where it leads. Just now, yesterday, somebody asked Google AI, I don't know how it's called, Gemini, I think. Somebody asked it, who is the founder of Industry 5.0? And he sent me the screenshot, and there was a right content related to me, but the wrong picture. Because in Pilsen exists another Michael Rada, who is a photographer and who travel a lot of. But it was not me. And Google does not recognize, the AI did not recognize the fact. And we tested today in the morning again with ChatGPT, one of my friends, the director. And ChatGPT generally deliver in the first 5 sentences wrong answers, but then says, but there was someone like, his name was Mike Rada, and he was 6 years earlier there. And when he started to ask again, then even the AI says, okay, so maybe without Mike Rada, there will be no Industry 5.0 is the same like Karel Čapek. If he will be not there, the term robot will not exist. It will be another term. The robot will exist, but it will not be called robot. And that's exactly the stepping out of it. It is this unexpected outcome. I have to learn it. Unforeseen outcome. And that's exactly what makes me so, I like this type of outcome. Because I am bored with something which 2 plus 2 are 4. It's so boring. Why not 5? Why not 5? What is the problem? I don't like this type of thinking.
Yeah, that type of thinking is what the institution, the teachers, the tradition, um, but in a different universe, or if we thought about it differently, there has to be a possibility that what we've been taught is not are not the only answers. That's a very go, no go, fail, succeed sort of mindset. And we have to be bigger than that.
I think the great thing is also if you remove failure, you also remove the winners. So you have a much flatter hierarchy of achievers.
Yes. Yeah, that's the whole theory behind a zero-sum game is everything's black or white. You're either a failure or you're a success. And there's not room for very many successes there, which means that there's one person who knows everything and a whole bunch of people who suck up to it.
Yeah, who don't have the same worth, which is ridiculous. We're all born equal. We all have the same worth.
As I said, I'm so happy that we use the language of efficiency. All 3 of us speak through our heart. And the heart does not care whether it's in Kevin's body, my body, wife, like whatever. It's a heart. And if you speak the right language with the right frequency, then the heart recognizes it. When I was in Japan on a business trip, at the beginning, there has been interpreters, and they translate for me. But they stopped to translate it in the first half of the meeting because they said, you are explaining it in a way that we don't need to translate. And I did understand the people because we spoke about the same item. I can even speak Czech, not even English, and we will understand each other. And it was so interesting. It was my not first, but one of the first when I recognized that the language itself, it's a great tool, but it must be spoken the right way, the understandable way. You know, do you know the name of, uh, I think John Langdon Down, I think was his name, John Langdon Down. I am not sure, but something like that. He lived in 18 whatever. You know, he has to use the language. He was the first one who described the Down syndrome. And he has to use the language very well because he has the Down syndrome himself. And can you imagine the people who has been set aside of society cannot become anything, cannot go to school, and he was able not only to describe it, he was able to introduce the term. It was named according to him. It is very powerful story about this man, how he made it, and he can be named a failure. Fail of marriage, sorry, waste. No, he did it, and he helped so many. So I really love the term unforeseen outcome because that should the term fail should be eliminated. Because frequently those who use the term fail for others fail themselves. They just cover to be the all over and whatever, the better people. They are not.
Yeah, if you think about it, there's only one winner, which means there is an awful lot of failures. If we remove the concept of failing, then who cares about the one winner? It's just, it has no value at all. It's, you know, we're all winners at something. We're all good at something. Even if we don't know it, we haven't been given the opportunity to discover it. It doesn't mean any of us are failures. It may mean we've been failed by others, but not that we are failures.
Another Czech proverb, we say, it's not important to win, but to take part. Which is not bad.
The interesting thing is, yeah, we have no choice. We're all taking part. If we're born, we're taking part. And that's enough. We don't need to win at it.
That's so powerful message.
There was a commercial. I'll try to abbreviate this. There was a commercial that I keep seeing, a short video. And it was a foot race. And there were 20 or 50 teenagers lined up, and there was somebody with the whistle going to tell them to go. And it was about people who have advantage, people who have more advantages than the next person. So the guy with the whistle said, everybody who grew up with a mother and a father in the household, take 2 steps forward. And then everybody whose parents thought that an education was important, take 2 steps forward. Everybody who is white, take 2 steps forward. And he went down through this list. And of course, some people are halfway down the field. And he said, you know what the interesting thing is? When I blow this whistle, those people at the back who never took 2 steps forward are going to try harder and beat a lot of those people who had taken steps forward.
I have seen it. And it is a great lesson.
So that speaks to the winners and the losers. And if somehow you could measure the amount of effort that the people in the back expended in that race and compare it with the people who were halfway down the field and award the winners and the losers based on amount of effort rather than on who crosses the finish line or some other arbitrary human goal that we use for winners and losers.
Time to time I used in factories. I used it. The example that the people stay in line. One is the first one next to the counter, then there is the last one, but only until the moment when you move the counter to the other side. The last one become first, and it's just a perspective, and it's quite interesting because, as I said, and as you said, it is really a term. We didn't have so many terms. And to be honest, I do remember a single term in almost 3 years, which should be eliminated completely. We have many which we discuss, but most of them we discover, we clean it up, we discover it. But this one is a candidate for being eliminated, really. That's interesting. We have 2 minutes left. 3 minutes left.
I saw a TV documentary once about a children's hospital in Bucharest. No, sorry, Budapest in Hungary. And they found a new way to get kids who had some neurological disorder to actually be able to walk. And it meant moving the kids' arms and legs from an extremely early age, physically with the help of nurses, 8 hours a day. And these kids had to work like dogs. And for them, they didn't know any other way. So for them, it was a part of life. But through so much effort, they actually did it. They could lead much more normal lives. They could walk, they could move their arms and legs, just like everybody else, instead of being in wheelchairs. And it's just incredible, and you couldn't describe any of those kids as failures. They just overcame everything. And it was just the most incredible story. And you just see the human spirit fighting to be able to live a normal life. That is so wonderful that you don't need a concept of winners. You just need to see these kids.
And that's exactly the point. Because many don't see it, because if you are rated as a fail or somebody who failed, you go out of the society, you are put out of the picture. Nobody asks you whether you are good or not. The questions are, do you have a university degree? Are you rich? Whatever, what is your role? And these people are never being asked. And this will change in Wasteless World. And this is why I'm so happy we have this discussion. And we have 1 minute left. So once again, it was so great. I don't think we will repeat it, the term, because last time we did for the third time to repeat, but it was not the same. And I think every single week should expect us a new term, because this is what makes it so fascinating. So have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human, and enjoy the unforeseen outcome in everything what you do. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.